My name is Akila, and this is the Black Men's Redemption. In this podcast, we talk with real Black men on issues that affect Black men on a whole. Let the healing begin. And welcome back to another episode of the Black Men's Redemption. I am here with Azikiwe Nelson. Dot, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being part of the Black Men's Redemption.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be after. I hope my information is relevant and important.
I'm sure it will be. So, as you know, June is men's mental health month, and it's a very apt time that we're starting the discussion on emotional health for Black men. So let's just hop right into it. My first question being, what does emotional intelligence really mean to you?
Well, emotional intelligence really means to me your own awareness and much how much control you have over your emotions and how well you can interact with other emotions of others. How you manage yours or when you interact with other people, emotions.
Okay.
Big stuff.
So how does emotional regulation fit into that?
The emotional regulation would fit in definitely how you choose, I'm not say choose because you're managing now, to react to other people's negative or positive emotion towards whatever is being communicated at the time. So for example, the issue of anger. Do you get angry if somebody sends you a food, but the tone of it don't come over well to you? How do you react to that? Do you lash out at the person say you shouldn't have said that or you feel that when you know deep down is the truth, or do you just calmly surrender to the truth and say, okay, shall we do it this way? Depends on what is, the matter is at the time,
So basically, emotional regulation to you is how you feel what you feel, but how you react in the situation.
Thanks for the whole management of your own emotion. That will set how you regulate. Okay. And of course, being a nation that suffer from trauma because of what happened 500 years ago, it's very difficult to do unless you push yourself on this journey to do this, to deal out it. It demands a lot from you, especially as a male, as a masculine person, as a man in this society. When you're expected to do a certain way all the time. Most men in this society are very angry people all the time. And including me. I don't know if I mean some words, because of what I have experienced in our family over the years.
I like what you said about the trauma kind of coming through and how you react emotionally in different situations, both generational trauma and your own personal trauma as well. So I guess that kind of leads into the emotional awareness. You basically already touched on it, but being aware of the other emotions in play in the situation, not just your own.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that the emotional intelligence comes when at a point in time, when you realize that everybody is reacting to your things. For example, if you're angry, if everybody reacting the same way to you, you might sit aside, take a check for yourself and sit by yourself and go on different self-investigation in terms of why is everybody reacting to you this way. You'll be after doing that internal query you realize that, well, maybe I need some help. Maybe things that are bothering you in the past that is coming forefront, that is interrupting your communications with other people. So maybe you have a problem that you need to go and fix. But the intelligence only comes at that initial reaction that you start, have an argument with yourself or query with yourself that something is happening. And I'm going to let me give you several examples. Let me take a status. I've seen a lot of abuse of growing up in my family. So I grew up as a angry person. I know while I was there until I started getting to work. I was angry at work. Nobody ever want to deal with me. Get a whole heap of memories and everything. I just sit on one side and query that could this be happening to you? And when I start to read up on everything on both trauma and child abuse and all of that stuff, I say, oh, maybe this is happening to you. I start to see counseling, you know. So and the journey is very long. It has your own big problem, but as you open yourself up more to dealing, and you just recommend you in terms of behavioral strategies and what you need to do. Got into yoga, started to read a lot of stuff and stuff like that. I started checking the counseling every 2 weeks and what have you. And gradually, my whole outlook on life started to change a little bit. Still angry, but I'm in management in terms of my emotions. So I don't feel that I go up to the parents and commit crime. So I'm on the way, still on the journey, still doing my technique, still, doing my queries with myself, still reading. And during such outreach, I know the lead. This is part of emotional regulation, you know.
I love that. I love that because that perfectly segues. So you are already addressing your own emotional health. And I don't think, some people might think that, oh, it's when you're in an emotional crisis, you should seek help. But I feel like it's more of an ongoing thing, whether or not you're good or whether or not you're not, you should be always trying to address.
So, yes, you have to always try to adapt. You're always checking in. You're always doing your best. You're always working to be better because in the process of you checking in and being better, you're also searching for your higher self. You're also searching for your higher self. And you actually find these philosophies that will help you and continue to life, help you make you better, you know? So the journey, you never finish the journey until until your spirit leave your body, you know, and when your spirit leave your body, and you come back to your real, you get a new journey.
That's so
So
true.
that you remember that you were here before, you know. So I am at the point where I understand. I'm beginning to understand that pretty much I am God having a human experience. Whatever is here, I have to observe, learn, be better, and continue to learn. Because see, your energy cannot be created or destroyed. So that is part of humility for me. And being able to fix it myself and continue my life journey, you know. Always observing, always learning, embracing lifelong learning, and becoming better as a man, you know.
Do you think that in general, men um, give their emotional health the attention that it deserves?
In general, repeat.
Do you think that in general, men give their emotional health the attention that it deserves?
I don't think so. I don't think so because if you what has happened because of what the interruption that interrupted our great civilization for over the 500 years. The whole issue, the whole rites of passage, all of that being disturbed in growing up. Rites of passage, what you eat during a certain season, what you do each day, all of that get disturbed. So what has happened is that there's pretty much men here, I admire yeah, I can't say men here, picking up the idea of marriage from the down pressure. Some who they save master hold, they're taking that idea of man who they don't take a hold, and that becomes unhealthy for all of us. It becomes healthy for the man himself who's perpetrating this behavior, and especially for the woman. Then there's violence, this is take over her body, they child it against you get all of that, it's much easier, all of that. Because they really don't have any idea of who we were before we got this third life favor. We need to start, as I said, thank couple, we need to start, go back to all of that stuff, is what makes a man a man, you have to practice all of that to become who we really are, you know? So I don't pay enough attention. Yeah, I think you don't really know what is affecting us. Yeah, because every day as I go my journey and I deal myself, you can see the problems with everybody else. You can see the problems in the sexy man who want to behave on the road. Or the people deal with each other. They leave because the aggression goes up. You see it every day. You see it every day. And I don't think really know. I think you have the wrong message of what a man should be. We have a wrong blueprint.
So in that breath, then we see the emotional dysregulation within society. Do you think that society itself contributes to that? This not just the society that we've inherited, through slavery, but the one that we are participating in and co-creating in a sense in this time.
Yeah, the one that will participate in this one is doing more damage to us than anything else because I think the damage scheme is there is capitalism that is fueling patriarchy, and the patriarchy is really the anger and the aggression towards our very own selves and each other. It's all of that. It's all of that.
So back to a more of a introspective for the general man. Do you think that Black men are afraid to express their emotions? Do you think that fear would be the right word? And if it is fear, where does it come from?
All of that, what we experience as a people, it inculcates fear. And as I said before, which I think you take on the wrong lookage of what a man should do. So, man of the child, man of experience, emotion, man of the child, and the way that feared up, we are feared up, but man of the child. Can you imagine that? So, what we do with the feared up? Good man. What we do with the feared up? Do we just get to page and accept them? I don't get that, right? Part of experience is the release of negative energy, an experience of joy. You know, it's part of how the spirit expresses itself. I don't get that. Man must tough, man must good, man must cook our food. It makes no sense in other these things are just natural life. Everybody is a human being to wash the and cheese. It's not a woman's day, it's not a man's day, it's everybody's thing. So this idea of what man is and what man today is into the rules everything, right? And the generational trauma continues then fathers, you know, tell them son is guilty and continue with the sound of continue and the woman gets hurt and the children get hurt, you know. So I don't think we have a I'm not very aware. We're not very aware. I make it worse again. We really have no leadership of that. We have a leadership that take advantage of our self-critical condition. And then they too have probably themselves, you know. So this thing started self first. I think that this thing started self first. I don't know if I answer the question. I need to ramble a bit.
No, I mean,
Stop me rambling.
no, it's not rambling because it's all information. But I guess really what I'm trying to say, where does the fear come from? Where does the fear originate?
Oh, where did this fear itself come from? an erosion of confidence because of what we're experienced as a people, what we experienced as men growing up in a post-colonial capitalistic society. It's an erosion of our person, and it is a fear that is learned from your early. Your child born out of a womb, out of a cavern of water, easy sea and run to the sea and you stop the child, you the it, and you tell the child, and you find a way to prevent the child from entering water, although the child from natural sin already. You have pretty much started to keep it sin. That's just a small example of how fear is created. Stop, you stop the child from being the child is or her generated from his own intuition. I'm from the sense, yes.
So I guess my next question would be the society that we're in, a lot of times they tend to want to place some emotions as masculine emotions and some emotions as feminine emotions. Why is that? And what are the generally considered masculine emotions? What are they?
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one because we can take it from food, we can take it from a yin and yang principle, we can take it from a generational traumatic principle that but you see both genders share the same emotion. Man can be angry, woman can be angry. But you look at the other meaning that from a status standpoint, the more nurturing energy come from the woman because she brought the anything. She brought she holds the portal between spiritual and the physical realm. You come into you only can come into the world via a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It feeds you, it nurtures you from in the womb. Whatever she feels while you're in the womb, you will feel a certain way. That chemical is created. Um, so probably the only emotion that I can say, but men can nurture too.
Mm-hmm.
Men can nurture too. Just in a different aspect. You going to play the football, then you going to play football with your child, going to supporting him at his ventures, whether in playing sports and studying just to be supportive. You can be nurturing, but the woman have a stuff in nurturing because, just by way of breastfeeding. That is that the women have more edge in terms of nurturing, just by the way of breastfeeding. That tells you a lot.
I love how you mentioned that because one of my questions really was how do men express emotions differently from women? Because you just mentioned that men can nurture, but so can
Yeah,
women. It's just
yeah,
a different way that it is expressed. But
yeah.
generally,
Look,
society says that men I feel like the emotions that they are typecast to only be able to express. Society says, oh, men, if you have to be happy but not too happy. Yeah, you can express anger, but you cannot express fear or sadness.
yeah, yeah. This is my experience with my father. My father never hugged me and shake my hand. My father never showed me appreciation. He never showed me anything like that. He never liked to say, and I was really happy. We can't be too happy. There's no nurturing element from him. He does none at all. I have to grow up. I have to grow up learning love. I have to grow up understanding love on my own terms. I had to, you know, to social experiences, I have to understand it and know it. I never get that. I didn't get that. I didn't get the support at the football game or tennis. I didn't get all of that at all. It was it was a constant beat down. You know, you never know when it was right, always when it was wrong. Right? You never get congratulated for good things you do. That never happened. So what has happened to me is that you become a person. People pleasing, that was a big part of my life because of what has happened while growing up in my yeah. People pleasing. They get the lack of confidence. Of course the fear is there, you understand? So yeah. Men it's not a problem for men to hug the child and say, tell them, love them. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially for girls, because the father is the first friend, the first man friend of his daughter. So it's very important for girls, especially. But both genders, it can get nurturing from men.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you share that because you see the effect it has. You can very much tell a child who is nurtured by their father, and even as an adult, you can tell who got that loving from their father, and you can tell who had to
Right?
learn it on their own and who didn't learn it at all.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell. You can tell. You can tell everybody who has the type issues at the moment. The father won't and the mother won't. You can tell. And as I said before, the especially to be in your own journey towards healing, recognizing your fault. Defeating others clear as day. I mean, you point out to them, they can't see. They can't see. You know? It you know, the more you heal, the more you learn about yourself. You see how wicked it is out there in the society. To tell them the truth. You see how wicked it is.
So, as we touch on the expression of emotions, how can you touched on that earlier, but how can men um express their emotions in a healthy way? I know a lot of guys are kind of afraid of, being nurturing or being quote unquote soft, or what are considered soft emotions, so they don't want to be labeled, especially here in Jamaica, as effeminate. And so they go on with this bad man attitude. But how can men standing up in their masculinity but still expressing some of the softer emotions, especially to their children, to their wives and women, and to themselves and to their brethren?
First of all, who recognize the soft emotion from hard emotion? What I identify as soft or hard are all emotions necessary. But even what you choose to project or what makes your family and community better, that's what you choose to project. The whole thing of I don't know. I my my journey demands from me authenticity. I have to be authentic in what I do. It's very difficult to have to be an actor out there and you're doing healing work. You have to be authentic. You have to be authentic. So where I show love with genuine intention. I show anger, and just genuine intention. And that's the person. I'm truly the person. And not, but you realize because of your experience, understand why you're depressed, and you have to also find a way to get out of depression. So it's different with somebody who has into emotion, a man with emotional intelligence. So you know why this is happening to you, and you find get at how to get out of it. You know, um, the most prominent and the most easy recognized as massive emotion is anger. But as I said before, both genders can be angry. It's just how you should just say. I expect my anger and that through sport. I expect a lot through sport and competition. I get on cycling. I'm about to some not social media. That's what I think. The activity is not harm, not really harm anybody or harm yourself, but you channel it. You find ways to channel it. You know, that's the best way I think that I express my emotion. You know,
So you brought up two things right there is about um physical activity. I do want to touch on that, but before I touch on that, I would like to kind of delve a little bit more into how men can express. I know you don't label it as softer or harsher emotions, but we know in general society, as I said earlier, society would like to typecast men, especially black men, as you're either happy but not too happy or angry. How do black men express joy? How do black men express the sadness when they need to? Because as you said, being authentic is one of the main things. So how do you, there's this thing that was trending a couple years ago called Black Boy Joy, and a lot of men never got to fully express the joy of a child when they were children. They kind of got pushed into adulthood early. They got pushed into fear early.
I can be totally identify with that. Yeah.
So how do we encourage the men to get used to and be okay with expressing their joy and their anger and their sadness and their all the other emotions in a healthy way?
Find groups of common interest. I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, that's how you get men to open up. As I said before, it has to start from a first thing. What what does it when you get angry at a child, when you beat a child, when you beat up your friend, what do you feel after? Do you feel any remorse? Can you start from getting into the remarks and why do you feel this way? Or you don't succumb to what you have experienced as the trauma over the years that they say, I just come and see as the thing go. And this is support and sometimes it's just some man stay, quote unquote. It's supposed to tie other women and then same patriarch and umbrella too. Because of fear of the man. It's not saying no, I'm not doing I don't agree with that. But anyway, getting men to open up is another it, it requires some love and requires some tolerance. You know, how do you coerce somebody to make better of them emotion, make better of themselves, make better of I don't know. I don't know actually. I don't know. As I said before, it's a self thing for me. I didn't feel comfortable the way I feel. So I started to feel self. So the discomfort started within me. Another man who probably got ball and play piano and in time some other woman yard and all them things. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Everybody different, you know. And as I said before, most men, most women just are very kind of ignorant of who them are, who they are, in terms of emotional intelligence wise or otherwise. We a lot of them group up on the same patriarchal umbrella. You know, you see, you never see, you hardly see you see like a group of men together talking the same foolish thing. And them a deal with them. They deal with them one another. Good God, that's good. But the argument right here, I don't know what here. Don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know.
That is a hard one. It seemed like it's something that has to be.
The hard one. It's self-generated. All of that stuff towards change. It's self-generated. If you becoming, touched by some spirit or something, no, it's all right. Why me do that? It's all right. What happened here? It starts from self-police. It starts from section and a argument to the better. But they say it starts from both pose, but the understand how the expose then it's police. So, if you can find, it starts from it. If you have an external so one, so, but it was that. All the insurance to know, you are self-first. Unless in submit himself to some kind of workshop or thing. I mean, I'm not things to work.
That's true. That's true. It doesn't seem like there are lots of systems otherwise for men. But I hope in the future, as men of like minds get together. Right. So one of the things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned earlier, physical activity, because you mentioned cycling and you said you're at the beach. I'm sure you took a swim. How does that help in emotional regulation for men?
Right, right. So as I said before, um the 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 the, the, the physical activity in itself generate the balance between serotonin and dopamine. So you get this feel good factor. So eventually that chemical that anger created, we're going to be depleted by the joy you feel riding the bike, the joy you feel playing tennis. That quickly is not that you don't forget the event that made you angry. No, you don't. But it has depleted the 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 effect of what you could do otherwise physically to address that situation in a negative way, you know, or go into depression because you have internalized this anger, right? So you have to know it still becomes a part of our whole self journey because you have to know, make this journey towards joy, make the whole betterment of yourself and control your mood. That has to be a joy itself. It has to be a joy itself in terms of you going towards your higher self. So the whole thing of being better and reacting to situations in a better way, it has to become a joy in itself. It's very difficult to do, it's very difficult to do. But as again, as I said before, it starts with self. You want to see better, you don't want to feel this way. So you do things to counteract your feelings. And one of the ways that works for me is physical activity. Reading does it too. Yeah. Reading does it too for me. Because it's the act of bettering yourself, the act of gaining knowledge, the act of being better. Anything that makes you feel better and will profit you in your journey towards your higher self, you go towards that. You know. For some people, it can be eating, having food, but depends on which food you have. You can the joy can show in how your body changes.
Yes, I was actually thinking of that. You don't want to get too much into the food too much, but have a good fruit if it works for you.
So,
But don't
so
drown in the cake.
no, exactly, exactly. I find that good nutrition really help too because the things that you consume can contribute to your behavior. Everything you consume contribute to your behavior. Based on the yin and yang principle, again, you consume more acidic foods, you try to get angry quicker, you get depressed quicker, you consume more meat, to get more hormonal imbalance. And men can have hormonal imbalance. We have hormones, our endocrine system. You consume more greens, more vegetarian stuff, you get a little bit calmer, and everything else that can are in between, so yeah. I don't know if I answered your question or
No, you
you can.
did. You really did. I think even looking at the younger generation, like my brother and my father, they're active. My brother takes karate. My dad's always on the farm, and it seems to be a good way, especially my brother, because he wasn't like a hothead, to channel, the emotions in a positive way, not by, vandalizing places or going out and beating people up, but finding productive ways and healthy
Yeah,
ways.
fine. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, finding productive way to channel the emotion you don't want. Finding productive way to deal with it.
And
That is the idea.
I'm sure even painting for some people, because I feel like that
Yeah,
one of the things you said was about finding something that brings you joy and doing it to counteract the anger, creating beauty when you yourself are not feeling very good can be good for you.
The arts are perfect. The arts are perfect. Visual arts, performing arts, perfect. Perfect stuff. Perfect stuff. I was trained as an artist myself. I did the whole drawing. My first college was Edna Manley. So I need to probably get back into that. I haven't drawn in a while. I haven't painted that while. So I need to get back into that. That would help. But the art's perfect. Making jewelry, all of that stuff. Perfect. Arts, all of that stuff. Good stuff for the soul. Good stuff for the soul. Very healing stuff.
It's great. Well, Uncle K-Dot, you've been wonderful. Sharing your thoughts. It has been great. I know people are going to love to listen to this episode. And you're a season opener. So this is off to a great start.
All right. I hope I was informative enough. Happy to help. And as I said before, I think you're doing great work. Nobody's doing this work. You're doing fantastic work. All of this stuff you do, gather it out. This is a doctoral thesis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I'm happy to be of service as well.
Yeah, man. Give thanks. Heal up your family for me, mommy and daddy.
I will, and thank you for being part of the Black Man's Redemption. Until next time.
Yeah, man.
This has been another episode of the Black Man's Redemption. If you have any questions or comments, or want to pose a new topic, leave a message for us on one of our podcasting platforms, or leave a comment or direct message at our Instagram @BlackMansRedemption. We'd like to thank our guests for their contributions and our listeners for their questions. Now's the time for healing. Let it begin.